We also did take a look at what is the message structure for an HL7 message at a very high level, right? We understood that every HL7 message will have segments. Segments will have fields. Fields will have components, and components might be again subdivided into subcomponents, right? So that's what we have seen yesterday. Today we'll continue from there. Take a look at the message structure to see how do you navigate through message every HL7 message, and we will also take a look at what are the various message types and event types that we come across and what are they. So we will be having relatively shorter session today. We'll complete the session by 7:40, and we'll conclude. And from tomorrow we can continue from 7 to 8.
Dixon, one thing yesterday, whatever you shared, right, and also
Yes,
the
Ritesh.
recording,
Mhm.
is there any way we can have it for a reference, like go through it again?
Yeah, you can view the recording.
Okay.
So you'll have access to it.
What about the material is what I mean, the one that you shared. Will you be sharing this?
Yes.
Okay,
It will be shared with everyone, whoever is enrolling for the training program.
sure. Thank you.
Yeah. So whatever materials I display in the meeting will be through the training will be shared with you guys.
Sure. Thank you. Thanks, Dixon.
Sure. All right. So let's continue. Let me share my screen. All right. So yesterday we were taking a look at the sample HL7 message, and we understood that every HL7 message will have segments, and we saw 5 segments here. And we understood that every segment has to start with uh, a segment name, and the segment name is a 3-letter acronym always. And this acronym you will usually have a meaning or will have a full form, and most of the times that full form will let us know what kind of data will be carried in that particular segment. And if you want to navigate to any one of the segments within the HL7 message, all that you have to do is call out that segment name, and then every segment has many number of fields, right? And each field has a position which we call as field position, and that number starts from 1. The sequence starts from 1, and whatever is held between two pipes, we call it as field separator pipe, right? So whatever is held between two pipes is called as a field, and every field has a position. So this is field number 1, field number 2, field number 3, field number 4, 5, and so on. And every field position has a dedicated data element. For example, PID 5 is dedicated for patient name, PID 7 is dedicated for date of birth, 8 is for gender, 10 is for race, 11 is for address, 13 is for phone numbers, and so on. So we have many data elements that we capture in the real time as part of identifying the patient. So all of that information, whichever is pertaining to patient's administrative details, will be part of PID segment. It may be his phone number, marital status, what is his primary language, what is his SSN number. All of these data elements will be there in PID segment. And there are dedicated placeholders for all of these data elements in the HL7 fields. And these field positions will not change, which means they are static. And if we do not have data in that particular field, then you leave that field as blank. We don't advance the positions data of the data elements, or we don't push it back. For example, as we can see in this particular sample, PID4 is blank, which is used for MRN number. As we do not have PID4, we don't move this PID5 to PID4. If you don't have data element, then you leave it blank, right? Because that is what standard is all about, having dedicated placeholders for each and every data element that we capture in the real-time world. One more important thing to keep always in mind: HL7 is message is a uh, reactive message which gets generated for an action that is happening in the front end. Okay, so whenever patient gets registered, an HL7 message gets generated. Whenever there is an update to an existing patient information, an HL7 message gets generated. Doctor is placing an order in the EHR application, an HL7 message gets generated. So in this way, it is always a reaction to an action that is happening in the real-time world. Okay, so as it is representing one certain action, entire data uh, that is captured during that process of action will be present in the HL7 message. Okay, so if you want to navigate through an HL7 message that got generated after certain event or after certain action, you
Dickson, I think something is stopped.
Hey, hello, Ish, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Hey, sorry, I got kicked out, so I rejoined. Um, so let's continue. So whenever we want to navigate through any HL7 message, first we use or call out the segment name, and then we call out the field position. Okay. So by locating or by providing that segment name and field position, we will be able to point out to specific data element within that entire HL7 message. For example, as we see, PID5 is for name. And if you want to tell someone that where do we have a patient's phone number, you can say that it is present in PID 13. Where is the address? We can say that it's PID 11. And so we can use this navigating mechanism to go ahead and read through the HL7 message that we see. So if you know the field positions, anyone will be able to read that particular HL7 message. So that's what I was referring to yesterday when I said it is in human readable form, which means anyone who looks deeply at it, even if they don't know these field positions, they'll be able to at least figure out few of the data elements from the HL7 message structure. Chetan, could you please be on mute? Yeah, thanks. So when we look at certain field, there may be a possibility of breaking down that field into further components, right? I mean, it's not always the case, but wherever it is possible, HL7 organization has broken down those fields into components. So for example, if you take a look at name is a very generic word, right? It can specifically can be divided into first name, last name, middle initial. You will have surname. You may have prefix and suffix like junior or doctor, and so on. So there are many things or many components which are part of name. So wherever we see such sort of uh, uh, possibility of breaking down the field further into certain data elements or certain components, HL7 organization has done that too. Why? So that there is no ambiguity while exchanging the data between different systems. So let's take an example. If HL7 gives the flexibility to the developer that they can send name in PID5, but doesn't define a standard or doesn't tell where exactly first name should be sent and last name should be sent, everyone will acquire or everyone will go ahead and have their own way of sending the information PID5. They may send name, but still one may send first name first and last name later. Some other may send last name first and first name later. So there is nothing wrong in it. But the problem is if they do send it that way, then again, that gives it the scope of discussion between two developers to discuss where this particular developer is sending what kind of information within that PID5. So that scope of discussion has been eliminated by providing standard structure even for the fields. So what HL7 says is if you're sending name in PID5, then first component has to be PID. First component has to be last name. Second component has to be first name. Third component has to be middle initial. Fourth should be suffix. Fifth should be prefix, and so on. So the field can further be divided into components. And how is this structure expressed? When you look at a certain structure, last name, first name, middle initial, and so on, how is that defined? These are defined with the help of data types. Okay, so we have two separate sessions on data types, which we'll be taking a look at down the line in the future sessions. But the basic uh, concept is data types will define these structures on how many components each field can have. Okay, so once we look at data types, it will be more clear. As of now, we just need to know that every field, if there is a possibility, can be further divided into components, and these components are separated with the help of caret, this caret symbol that we are seeing here. Okay, and each component will again have a component position. Okay, same like fields. Whenever you look at any field, if it is divided into components, every component will have a number. So this is component number 1, this is component number 2, component number 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. Okay, so how do we navigate through it again? So once after you specifically point out to one field number, if that field is divided into components, then you add another dot and say that this is component number 1, and component number 1 is last name, and PID 5.2, we are referring to component number 2, that is called as first name. And then we have PID 5.3, which is our middle initial. Okay, and we have many other components as part of PID 5. PID will have 4 as a prefix, 5 as suffix, and so on. So in this way, fields may be further divided into components. These components might further be divided into subcomponents based on the need, which is very, very rare as compared to uh, as compared to the number of fields which are divided into components. But possibility is there. Components can be again subdivided into subcomponents. We'll take a look at that with an example as and when we come across when we are going to look in the future sessions to see what a subcomponent is, how how the message structure looks like wherever you have subcomponent. But as of now, we understood that segments, fields, and components. And that's more than enough for us to go ahead and explore rest of the message types and event types. Now you may be wondering, if you're new to HL7, do we really need to read through each field numbers and figure out where we have what kind of data element? As an HL7 developer or analyst, you may have to go ahead and do that. And it may become a little bit difficult for us to go ahead and read through the fields and understand which field has what data, whether they are sending the information in correct field or not. By looking at this, I cannot say that whether this particular data element, I can say that this is date of birth. I'm understanding by looking at it, but I am not very sure whether it's being sent in MSH6 or MSH7. But how do I verify that? I have to obviously go ahead and read through the field positioning 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and understand that this is in field number 7. So that's where I can conclude that yes, it has been sent correctly. But is that the only way? No, we have many tools which can break down the HL7 message for us and let us know or give us the field positioning and which field has what kind of data, so that we can use those tools as part of validations. But in the beginning phases, if you are very new to HL7, I would recommend going through field numbers manually instead of using the tools, because that will help you to recollect and remember or memorize which field has what kind of data. And as a HL7 analyst, you at least need to remember few of them, not all of them. Not all of them, even I don't know, no one knows it. It is impossible. But few regular data elements like provider, patient name, patient's date of birth, patient gender, patient ID, and then guarantor information, and especially with respect to order related data, result related data, where we are sending what. So these kinds of data elements has to be memorized, because that will be frequently used during your implementation. Okay, so let's look at such tools. We have many tools. We have HL7 Inspector, HL7 Spy, we have HL7 Soup. In this way, there are many tools. I use a smart HL7 viewer very frequently, which you can download. It is for free. You can go ahead and download that from one of the websites. I'll share the website information, but I'll quickly show you how that works. So this is what Smart HL7 Viewer is. You can load any HL7 message. So you can load the HL7 message. Once you load the HL7 message, on the left hand side, you will be able to see all the segments. You can highlight any one of the segments, and this tool will break it down for you and show up what information we have in which field. So with that, I don't need to go ahead and read through the field numbers. For example, if I go to PID, here it is showing up. PID1 is for patient ID, set ID, and then you have PID3 for patient ID. Then you have PID5 for patient name, gender, and race, and so on. So we have many fields along with their names, and what is the data type associated with it is also given. And if you want to divide it further, you can go ahead and select that particular field. On the right hand side, it will show you uh, the message or that field at component level, how that field is again divided into components. So we can see that we have component number 1, family name, which is last name, and then you have your first name, and then you have your middle initial, and so on. So this tool will be very much handy if you are working on some data driven project to figure out whether data is being correctly sent in the HL7 message or not. During the process of testing or development, you may have to go ahead and test whether fields are getting generated correctly or not. So even at that point of time, this tool will be helpful a lot. So that being said, now let us go ahead and take a look at the message types and event types. What are message types and what are event types? So HL7 messaging works basically on one principle called as trigger events, which we got introduced to yesterday. So a trigger event is nothing but an event that is happening in the real-time world, which demands for the data to be exchanged between two different systems. Okay, which demands for the data to be sent from system A to system B. Such kind of events are called as trigger events. So there will be many events that are happening in the real-time world. When patient visits a hospital, there are sequence of events that are happening, getting registered or updating his existing information, getting an appointment scheduled or rescheduling an appointment, and meeting the doctor, providing his vital information like blood pressure, sugar, uh, and all of those details. And apart from that, they may also provide other um, information like height, weight, and all of these vitals. And then they meet the doctor. Meeting the doctor is another event. In this way, there are sequence of events that are happening. Not every event might demand for the data to be sent from one system to another. For example, patient getting registered in the PM system, data has to be sent to EHR so that doctor can have that demographic information. But when the vitals are being captured, vitals will be stored in the HR system, and there is no need for these vitals to be sent back to the PM system. PM doesn't need that height, weight information and all. It has to reside in the EHR system. So in this way, an event might demand exchange of data. So if events are demanding exchange of data, then such kind of events are called as trigger events. Okay. As we can see on the screen, patient admission into the hospital is an event, is a trigger event. Doctor placing an order information has to be sent from EHR to the lab. That is also a trigger event. In this way, the entire hospital workflow is divided into few categories. We have registration, we have appointments, we have labs, we have charges, we have insurances and pharmacies. Insurances and pharmacies are exchanged in a different format, which are called as X12 for insurances. And pharmacies can also be exchanged in the form of HL7, but not precisely in our context as of now. So we are going to concentrate on first four: registration, appointments, labs, and charges. And these are broad categorizations of all the events that may happen in the real-time world. Okay, but these are our normal English terms. We may have to go ahead and see how these are expressed in the form of HL7. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at that. So whenever you look at any HL7 registration, registrations are expressed in the form of ADT. So ADT has, again, this is an acronym. Every HL7 message that gets generated has a name. So that name, part of that name is this particular uh, message. Usually that is called as message type, and it has two parts. One is the message code, and second one is the event type. So this is called as message code. ADT is nothing but admit, discharge, and transfer. So any event that is happening in the real-time world, which is pertaining to admit, discharge, and transfer, will be expressed with the help of this acronym, or will be expressed with the help of this message code. I will show you where we have this in the HL7 message in a bit, but let us first complete all the message codes and their related event types. Then you have appointments. Appointments are expressed with the help of SIU. SIU is scheduling information unsolicited. Then you have labs, which are expressed with the help of ORM and ORU. ORM is observation request message. ORU is observation result message, because doctor is asking to make some observation, right? So he will place an order with the help of ORM, and the result will be sent back in the form of ORU from lab to the EHR system. And then you have charges, which are expressed as DFT, which is nothing but detailed financial transaction. And as I said in the earlier session today, in the beginning of the session, these are broader categorizations uh, of the hospital workflow, right? And each category can be further divided into events, which represent the real-time event or specific event, to be precise. So when we talk about registration, there will be many events as part of registrations, but we are going to take a look at only a couple of them from each category so that we know what all possibilities we may have. So if you look at registration, patient might register himself as a new patient altogether. That's one possibility. Second possibility is patient might go ahead and um, update his existing information that is present in the EHR system, that is present in the PM system. Let's say patient is walking in for the first time, he'll get registered with his complete details, or else he is um, not, he has already visited the hospital, but uh, he's uh, he has visited the hospital and he wants to go ahead and update his patient's phone number or his address information or email address information. So the existing data gets updated. So these are two different events that are most common. Apart from this, you will have patient getting discharged, patient getting transferred to a different hospital, or uh, we can also say that there is another event called as merge, where if duplicate records are created in the patient PM system for the patient, then both of those will be merged with each other. So such kind of scenarios also do exist. So all of these represent that there are many events. We are going to take a look at new patient registration and update patient information so that you can get an idea how to deal with the rest of them as well. So we'll explore more on the message events and what is the structure of it as and when we progress through the training. Then you have appointments. Appointments are further divided into three components or three events, which is nothing but new appointment, update of existing appointment, deletion of an existing appointment. So when I say delete, I don't literally mean delete. We never delete the data from EHR systems or PM systems. We usually archive it and we will keep it still in the system. So when I say delete, it represents cancellation. Cancellation of an appointment can be done if patient is not showing up or if patient wants to cancel himself, right? And then you have charges. Charges will have only one event type, which is exchanging charge information between PM and EHR. And finally, you have labs. Labs will have orders and results. Okay, but these are again general terms. Let's see how they are expressed or represented in the form of HL7. So every event has its own type, which we call as event type. So ADT is the message code, and A04 or A28. These are two events that will represent registration of a message, registration of a patient. Okay, then you have ADT A08, ADT A31. Any one of them will represent update of existing patient information in the EHR system. So what do we understand from this? When we look at an HL7 message, so when we look at an HL7 message, within HL7 message, there will be some or the other place where you see this combination of message code and event type. So when you look at this particular field here, we are seeing that it represents ADT A04. So by looking at this, we can understand that this message is going to have the data with respect to a registration that happened in the real-time world. Okay, you may be seeing ADT A08. So by looking at that field or that message type, you can say that this is for this particular HL7 message got generated when patient's information got updated in the PM system. So this particular data element is present in MSH9, which we call as message type. Okay, message type is combination of message code plus event type. Okay, so this is message code, which will let you know the broader sense of what this message is all about, and event type will specifically tell which event is responsible for this entire HL7 message to get generated. Okay, so message code plus event type both are together called as message type, which will be usually sent in MSH9 field. So MSH9 is dedicated for that. So this is like name of a book. Any textbook you take or any book you take, you have a name to that particular book, right? By looking at that, you can understand what is what is that book is all for. In a very similar way, by looking at the message type, we can understand when this particular message got generated, what event is responsible for generating this particular message. Okay, so SIU represents appointments, right? Scheduling information unsolicited. So SIUS 12 represents new appointment. SIUS 14 represents update of existing appointment or modification of existing appointment. SIUS 15 represents cancellation of an existing appointment. Similarly, TFT, detailed financial transaction, has only one event type, which is PO3, and ORM, which is order message, observation request message. Doctor is requesting for an observation. That's the reason it is called as observation request message. And it has O01. Similarly, we have ORU, observation result unsolicited, which is represented with the help of R01 event type. So if you see ORM O01 in the message type in MSH9, we can understand that that's an order message which got generated when doctor placed an order.
Hi, this is Parshu here. These
Yeah.
codes remain standard across, or
Yes.
does it vary from system to system, something like that?
No. These are standard. So when you look at ADT 04, universally it is for patient registration event.
Makes sense. Okay, makes sense. Yeah. Thank you.
That's the whole point of having a standard, right? If you give that flexibility of having a different name for each event type, then everyone will use their own event type, right? So HL7 has dictated that ADT 04 is for registration, A31 is for update of patient information, so that whenever I am exchanging this code or this particular message type, anyone who is receiving that in the world will understand that this is a registration message.
Makes sense.
Hi, Dickson.
Hey.
So for ADT, we have two event types, A04 and A28. But you said A04 is one event type. Why do we have two event type in ADT when it comes to update or registration?
Good question. So both ADT A04 is initially added for adding a patient information to the system. Then A28 is later added as part of registration. So I will explain this particular context when we talk about appointments. At times you will use ADT A04 for representing an appointment, which is little bit out of context. So we are going to take a look at that down the line. So I'll explain once we complete the appointments part of it, once we look at the message structure. So this the functional scenario comes into play. After every message types, we are going to take a look at functional aspect of that particular message type. So we'll talk more about that at that point of time.
Sure.
Okay, but there is little bit of to brief on that. There is a little bit of structural change for between A04 and A28, but in generic sense, they use A04, A28 for registrations. We'll talk more about that down the line.
Okay, and it may so happen that we may use one of them or both of them based on the context.
One of them, yes.
Is there any continuous number, like, because we see somewhere 01 and somewhere it started A is 31 and all.
Yes. So they begin with A01. So I'll show you where to see in the HL7. We have HL7 specification documents. Within those documents, every event has what is the name of every event is specified there. So I'll show you how to go ahead and view those specifications and how to navigate through them. So I picked up only few of them which are more frequently seen in the real-time implementations because these things cover the natural workflow of the hospital. And these cover mostly 70% of all the implementations. Alongside, we have many other message types as well, like immunizations, which we use for VXU is an immunization message type. And you will also see OMP, which is for pharmacy orders, RSA, uh, which is for medication administration for a patient record. So there are many other message types as well, but our training is going to cover only these few because these are the most common ones.
So all the message start with A will be come from ADT alone, right? It may not be a mix of something like.
You mean to say if it is starting with A04, A28, something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. From
Anything
what I have
starts
seen,
from A will be a part of ADT, right?
part of ADT. But it doesn't mean that, see, if you look at DFT has something starting with
Yeah.
PO3.
DFT is a different
Yeah.
completely.
So it is not some rule that beginning with A should be part of ADT. But in our HL7, as far as I have seen, we have only A's associated with ADT only.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so with that, we complete our today's session. So what we'll do is in tomorrow's session, we'll go ahead and continue taking a look at every message type. So what we are going to do is we are going to pick up each message type, take a deeper look at what are the segments that are involved in each message type. And along with segments, we'll also take a look at what are the important fields. So let me give you a quick glance of what we are going to see and what is the pattern that we are going to follow to learn each message type. So we'll be following this document, which I have made for our training. So we have message type. Every message type has few segments, right? So we'll list out all of those segments, and each segment will have fields, right? So we are going to take a look at each segment in detail, understand what that field is. If there is any functional aspect of that particular field, we'll have discussion around it. We'll talk about that particular field, how that is used, what is this certain data element, and how that is used in real-time implementations. In that way, we'll complete the entire message structure of every message type. So we are going to take a look at all of these message types that we have seen: ADT, SIU, DFT, ORM, ORU, and their structure in detail. And we'll also, once we complete each message type, we are going to take a look at workflow scenarios, like what do you do, or how do you exchange data when you have two PM systems feeding one EHR, or multiple PM systems feeding one EHR? How do you manage patient identifiers in that particular scenario? And in case of appointments, how the data gets changed with each event type in the appointment related segments and all. And with respect to DFTs, what all events we have, and how the data gets changed with various workflows in terms of DFT message. So after every message type, we'll have this flow. First, we'll take a look at the uh, structure. And then after looking at the structure, we'll look at understand the fields. And then we'll take a look at the examples. And then we will talk in detail about functional scenarios of each message type. functional scenarios or workflow scenarios. Okay, and this will be the pattern for all the message types. And then we will have one assignment after completing each message type. So I'll give you a word cloud, and you have to pick up that word cloud and arrange the data element systematically once after completing each message type, so that we'll get habituated to understand how do we read or how do we write HL7 message. So that will help us to write HL7 message. And this exercise of writing HL7 message will help us during the process of mirth development, which we are going to do in our training. Okay. So any questions from today's session?
No, nothing from my end.
I'm good. Thank you.
All right. So from tomorrow, whoever wants to continue, please, you can look into the chat. Shrinivas has provided the enrollment details. Please go ahead and enroll, and you can continue to join the sessions. And whoever gets enrolled, they will be provided access to the drive, Google Drive, that we are going to create. And if you cannot attend session at any point of time, you can always view the recording, and that access will be given through drive, and all the documents that we are going to go through the entire training will be part of that particular drive itself.
I have not received any message in the chat. So is he going to send separately, or how is it?
Srinivas sir, are you there? Or could you guys please drop your phone numbers and email addresses? Srinivas will send it in a bit.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, just drop your email address and phone number in the chat. We will pick it up and we will reach out to you. Just give me 1 minute. Let me quickly check with Srinivas sir.
Sure.
Oh, sorry guys, I was talking on mute actually. So I have shared the number through WhatsApp. Sorry, through the chat. So you can go ahead and ping Srinivas through WhatsApp, and you can go ahead and get enrolled. Okay, so if you guys do not have any questions, we can drop and we can continue tomorrow at the same time, 7 a.m. Indian time.
Sure. So Dickson, it will be only on the weekdays, or is it going to be on weekends also?
It's going to be 6 days a week, Monday to Friday. Sorry, Monday to Saturday.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, it's going to be from Monday to Saturday.
Sure.
And that will be for 4 weeks. It may spill over a week, just in case if we go ahead and have more discussion during our mirth development process, which usually happens because I see that whenever we have mirth developments, we come across a lot of questions, a lot of working sessions. So few may have doubts and all. So we go through those in the sessions itself, so that it will be benefiting others as well.
Yes.
So 24 to 28 sessions is what usually it takes. So 4 to 5 weeks. is the time period. Any other questions from anyone?
I'm good. I'm good.
All right. And thank you so much. Thanks everyone for joining. You guys, we'll talk to you guys tomorrow. We'll catch up tomorrow.
Sure.
Thanks everyone.
Thanks all. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.